It's the Blue Room. It is Blue Monday. I am Matt Jones and I'm joined, as ever, by Dave Downey. Dave, how are you? Did you enjoy your weekend without Everton?
Yeah, it was really nice, Matt, but I think it comes at a price, doesn't it, when you're starting on a Monday night? When you're back in work on a Monday and you're back in work on a Tuesday and you've got Everton away down at Chelsea in between. I think it's a risk if you think you're going to be having a good week as well.
I don't know. I feel like Mondays just kind of give you a bit of a free, especially because like results sort of went for us again as well. It's one of
Yeah,
them
it's
where
a
it's
good.
just like
Yeah,
that tonight is obviously one with to game with second favourites for given our positions and given our record down there, but. I'm hesitant to use the words free hit, but the pressure is kind of off us a little bit, isn't it? And I don't want to say what will be again. I'm not throwing this game out already, but it's I don't know. I'm not getting the dread and fear that I had before last week's game. Put it that way.
no, I think it's a fair point to say, really. I mean, I think at this stage of the season, you're sitting and watching those games come in. And I feel really nervous whenever I'm watching Premier League games where, like watching Nottingham Forest, watching Luton, which, let's face it, Luton, we were expecting to get a hiding from Manchester City when they went there. Forest, I thought, would win against Wolves. They went 2-1 up as well. For us to sort of, and again, it's the wrong term to get away from those games where you think that sides are going to get a point or not. I felt the Forest, the sort of the backdrop, the sort of buffer between both sides and Luton. So I think going to Chelsea as well. I think they're sitting there thinking that this is no means an easy game for them because they've been poor all season long. They've got a manager who I think he's probably under a lot of pressure. They might well look at that again come the summer, given the situation they've got. And you look at the sides that have been there. You look what Luton did. Not Luton, sorry, Burnley when they went there a few weeks ago, got a 2-2 draw. Could have won the game with 10 men. So I hope we've got that sort of approach where Dice has gone. Listen, if you haven't got 3 points tonight, I don't think we're far away from being able to say Everton are going to be in the Premier League next season, regardless of the way these stupid appeals and stuff like that are going to come along. And to have that feeling going down to Chelsea, I think dare I say light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, a little bit. And I think what kind of struck me this weekend. So just like to kind of recap where we're at. So we're 16th at the moment. Brentford won the weekend, didn't they, against Sheffield United, and you kind of say that they're on 32 points now. They're seven ahead of Luton. You'd say they're out of it. They're in 15th. Then we're in 16th, played 31
Mm.
points, 27. Forest are in 17th, played 33 points, 26. Then Luton played 33 points, 25. And they're they're pretty much gone now, I think, they played 33
Mm.
points, 20. But I don't know about you, but like it feels that when we get to this point in particular in a season, I think when you hit the 33 game mark, or maybe 32 for me, like that feels like there are not many games left at all. Not that like that's a mad thing to say, but it just feels like the actual sensation of looking at the table and seeing that there's teams below us now who've played 33 games, who are behind us, who we've got two games in hand on. Like that in ordinary circumstances, that feels like a really strong position for us. And listen, I'm sure there'll be people listening to this going, well, the two games in hand are against Chelsea away, who we've not beaten since 1994, was it, when Joe came in and
Yeah,
Paul Ryder
yeah.
scored, we won 1-0. I think that's the longest run of any team in the Premier League era without beating another team at a certain ground. And of course, the other one is the derby, isn't it, at home? And listen, I'm sure people will be getting feeling a bit better about that after what happened yesterday for them. But it's still a game we've not won and a fixture we've not won for God, what is it? 2010 was the last one, so 14 years. So
Mm.
pretty remarkable. But I think just looking at that, it's Luton have got, like I said, 25 points from 33 games. And if you look at, I think you've always said, Dave, around 35, you think we'll be fine. They're gonna have to go some to get 10 points from the last five, given they've only taken 25 from 33. And I think that's the sort of point I'm sort of getting towards now, where it's like these teams are kind of running out of games. Like Forest, I think like at the weekend, that going behind against Wolves and then coming back to lead 2-1, and then
Yeah.
that letting that one slip. That feels like a a really big one for them, especially when they've got, I'm sure they'll be looking at the game against us this weekend, and they've got to come here. They've got City at home after that as well. So tricky few games coming up for them. But I mean, that's sort of a long-winded way of me saying that it does just feel like the teams below us will be looking at it thinking, we are running out of games a little bit here.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I think you're right. When you get to this stage of the season, when you've got like 5, 6 games left, whatever it is, you start totaling the points, what the opposition can go and get. And I've been doing that a lot, thinking, do you know what? I reckon if someone offered me 7 more points, I think that's enough. Because like you say, Luton aren't going to win the rest of their games you've got left. Lest we forget, 2 games in hand, regardless of who we're playing against, should be a bonus to think about. Playing Liverpool at home, that they'll hate that as well. By the way, given that losing that game against Crystal Palace, them knowing that they're coming to Everton in a fortnight. Well, when is it? That they're just
10 days, isn't it? Yeah.
10 days away. That's not something that they're going to be looking at and thinking, do you know what, we could have gone there and pissed all over them and started celebrating they're going to win the Premier League and Europa League and things like that. They could well have done their season in the space 3 days in the last couple of matches they've had at Anfield. So it's really interesting at this stage when sort of momentum turns around quite quickly. And I feel like, if there's a time for Sean Dyche to prove himself, and if there's a time for these players to actually look like they haven't let us down, and that there are massive issues we've got across the squad and across the starting 11, then it's very much now. I don't know if it's a little bit of a cliche to say you've got a lot of players there who are playing for their futures with us. Many of them might not want to play for us anymore, given the situation that we're in. But obviously, there are plenty who do want to stay on. Come the summer, now's the time when you've got to go and show exactly what your credentials are for Everton to want to keep you. Because lest we forget, we've got to sell a lot of players. We've got to shift a lot of things going on this summer. So, I hope they're trustworthy enough to be able to think, yeah, we can go and get 6, 7, 9 points maybe if at a stretch, which will keep us in the Premier League. If you say that we've got 2 games in hand, Matt, you look at that table and you think it's an absolute shocker if Everton go down now.
Yeah, and it's interesting we say about players playing for the futures, because I sort of think there's large parts of the squad as well who aren't in a funny sort of way. Like it feels like, we talked about Gomez last week, and we'll come on to speak about him a bit later and what he does
Yeah.
with the team. But like, he's not going to be here next season.
Mm.
You could say the same about Onana and Branthwaite, given our finances and the pressure we're under to beat PSR. Like, it feels like both of them could easily not be here next season. Jack Harrison, I don't think that's going to be any more than a loan,
Yeah.
given his performances and the way he's come off the team again recently. Ashley Young's contract is up at the end of the season. Yeah, Danjuma's not going to come back. I think that's another certainty. So there's probably a good chunk of the squad there as well that you'd look at and say, well, they all know they're not going to be here, but it's just a case of just band together for, like, 3 or 4 good performances, lads, and just get over the line, and then you can go off on your merry way. But in regards to the team, and obviously feels ages ago now, but he did his press conference on Thursday, which is mad for a Monday game. Said Calvert-Lewin had a knock, but he should be fine. I think the one other issue he said was James Garner as well, who was carrying knock. I think Onana and the 𝗔İşə𝗍𝗍, who's obviously wife gave birth, which is why he missed the game last week. Are both available again. Midfield, what do you think he does in there? Is it one of them where Gomez was good against Burnley and you keep him in, or do you look at this match with Chelsea and the quality you could use in inverted commas, the 200 odd million he spent on central midfielders, and think this is going to be an entirely different game? Or are you sort of the opinion that Gomez deserves to keep his place in the side? Because to me, I'd be surprised if he played tonight. It feels like one of those games where he'd either go with Doucouré or Gomez behind the striker. I'm not sure he's going to want to play him deep in a midfield 2, maybe next to Onana or 𝗔İşə𝗍𝗍, given the legs and the energy Chelsea might have in there. But in the same breath, that would feel maybe like a little bit harsh on Andre, because he's been pretty good when he's come in recently.
I'll go a little bit further than you. I think he'd be one of the first names on the team sheet, given what he's done for us in the last couple of weeks. I think that
Would you be tempted to play him ahead of Doucouré, given his form?
that's a really good question. I think that you look at your opponents in situations like this, if you're sort of thinking, it's 50-50, you go with who you want to start in the game. I'd still stick with 𝗚𝗀𝗀𝗀, I think. Just his physical presence against these, I think is a big plus for us. In terms of Gomez, I think he's been magnificent since he came in, and I think he's been a massive bonus. Again, another sort of cliche, he's been like a new signing, because it felt that way when he came back. I didn't think he'd ever play for Everton again when he went out on loan. But he's come in, his attitude's been fantastic. You look at on his social media, he's always saying "let's go" and all that sort of thing. And I've seen him, when there's a scrap or two, and you've got players running over to the referee and kicking off. He's been one of the first. I've been quite surprised that that's been the way in which the philosophy he's had in terms of playing for us again. So I was thinking, and I've been toying with the idea that there's no way he can finish 90. He didn't he, against Fulham, against Burnley? Sorry,
Yeah, I think it's the
he
first
played.
time in one of my colleagues, 𝗚cie𝗻𝗀𝗀𝗀, did a piece over the weekend. So like
Yeah,
1600 days, the first time he finished 90 minutes and we won.
yeah. I mean that's an incredible stat, isn't it? Really, and congratulations for him to working that out, by the way. But yeah, I mean, I feel as if he's somebody that a real bonus to have for us in that midfield. And look, we've mentioned it again, really. His pace is what he hasn't got. What he has got is quality and being able to knock the ball around. I think his statistics will be a hell of a lot higher than many others when a team in terms of possession and the way in which he passes the ball. That's essential for us with what we need to do in that position, particularly against a side like Chelsea. I'd be more than happy to start him in that sort of role. Sort of, I wouldn't go as far as playing him as a six, because he's not that kind of player. I think you just want him as a general midfielder. And I think it sort of forces 𝗘ici's hand in many ways, because you've got a midfielder who essentially you don't want to bypass to play long balls and all this sort of thing, where you've got Calvert-Lewin trying to win headers against big lads who've been playing for Chelsea, because they've got some big boys there, haven't they, at the back. So I think if you're choosing to play him, which I don't think he can afford to not play Gomez, and I know that's a big shout given we haven't had him for most of the season. But the way in which he's played, the way in which he's influenced the side, he's somebody at the end of the season. If we stay in the Premier League, you say get on your merry way kind of thing. I think we'd end up thanking Andre Gomez quite a lot when we get to the end of the season, even though he's played half a dozen games since he came in against Spurs away, that one when he came on the bench, off the bench. So yeah, I mean, I'd stick with 𝗚𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, sort of playing further up behind Calvert-Lewin if he is fit. And then obviously you don't know what the bag of tricks you're going to get with Beto. I think that's too much of a compliment, really. But he's going to get on at some point, isn't he? I'm sort of talking my way into a confidence of getting something down at Chelsea, and I think many other fans would be that way too, given the way they've been. But I think that there's a concern there, because there's an assumption that they've been poor all season, which obviously the table shows they have. They've still got world-class talent. That for whatever reason they haven't gelled. They've got millions of players who Pochettino just doesn't seem to get the best out of, or he doesn't play the correct systems, whatnot, all of that sort of thing. But he's still, like, Cole Palmer's been one of my favourite players this season. I think he's fantastic. If Everton get a point, that's a big result. If we go down there and don't lose, I'll go as far as saying it. I'm expecting us not to win. No, I'm not. I'm expecting us to lose. I should just say that.
It's I know it's like we have got an awful record there,
Yeah,
but it's one of them. Like I feel like there's been as many draws as we've been. I don't know the exact stats off my head, but it's one of those. I think it's about. I think they've got 28 fixtures we've played there since we last won, which is mad in the league. But I think 13 of them have been draws. So it's like it's not a game we always get beat. I mean, we get beat a lot. Obviously, 15 out of 28 is a lot of games if that is what
yeah,
the exact
yeah.
stat is. But like even when they were really good under Mourinho and obviously Angelotti, there were times where we went down there and would we got the odd 0-0. I remember a 3-3 game,
Well, we should
the
have
one
won.
we, the one we should have won, yeah, when
Yeah.
John Terry scored when he was about what was it, like 4 or 5 yards offside.
The day when you
Absolutely
need
wild.
VAR.
Yeah, obviously we had the 2-2 last season when 𝗚𝗵𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀 scored that won
Yeah.
the goal and made 𝗂𝘁𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 look very silly. So we have had like the KL overhead kick was 1-1 as well, wasn't it? that was a late goal from Kale
overhead.
that day.
Yeah.
So it's one of them. Like it's not one of those fixtures you look at and go, oh, we're definitely going to get beaten there. Like you never look at it and think we're going to go down there and win, but it always feels like a game that we could potentially get something from. And listen, I suppose looking at them, like you said, Palmer's been sensational, hasn't he? And you know, could arguably be in the running for Player of the Year, really, if Chelsea were doing a little bit better. But I just also feel like with the way in which they're attacking at the moment, it does feel very much like just give him the ball and everybody else will move around him and we'll take it from there. And they sort of react from that. They don't really seem to have any set attacking patterns or a way of playing. And if we can go and defend like we have done away from home a lot this season, you think some of the away performances we put in, where we've been solid and we frustrated teams, and then just grabbed our chance from a set piece, then again, like it feels like one of those games where we can go down there and easily get something, because it feels like if you stop Palmer, which obviously is very, very difficult to do, but we're quite strong in that left channel, aren't we, with 𝗵𝗲𝗀𝗀 and Branthwaite, McNeil as well. Might, you imagine he'll probably just play as a second left back tonight, where he's trying to close up that space to him. But because if we shut down that area of the pitch, then they might just run out of ideas a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think the sort of Mudryk, when they got him, I was a massive fan of him before he came into Chelsea, and he just doesn't seem to have happened for him there at all. I know he scored a couple of goals in the last month or so, but he's somebody, I think he's on the fringe of things. We're talking about really quick players here. I don't have much doubt on 𝗵𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. I think he's really good at handling any kind of play. You think back to even when we lost at Anfield, he kept Salah out of the game, which sounds silly because he went and scored both goals to win it for them. But by and large, 𝗵𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀 kept him really quiet. I don't have any concerns that side. I think with Palmer, he's that good. He can go anywhere he wants there. I'm not sure how Pochettino looks at him in that sort of role, but if we're playing Coleman right back, that concerns me a little bit. They've still got Sterling as well. I feel as if to get a result there, Sean Dyche is obviously saying to them, you need to drop deep. We're playing in obviously our final third, but we're probably playing in our like final fifth, when you're just sitting just over your 18-yard box for most of the game. But other than that, I don't think Jackson's been any good for them. I think they've got issues in the central striking point. I think that's why they've struggled a lot, because they haven't got a striker that scored many goals. Seeing Jackson at the start of the season, thought he was really good. He's dropped what he's looked at when they first signed him. And ends up in the midfield as well. So Gallagher there too. I'd like to think we can put in a really competitive showing against them. Because again, Gallagher, I think he's put a lot of faith in a player that they didn't really buy. Because he was at Palace on loan, wasn't he? And I certainly would have taken him on loan at the time. So I think that there are competitive places there which we could really come out on top of. And then look, it's getting what we can to Calvert-Lewin up front, really. You can get players in and around him. Look, don't get me wrong, 𝗐𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀's going to have to drop deep at times, just to get to work in terms of trying to win the ball back, and Chelsea will have the majority of possession. But and I think when you go there, their fans get behind them as well. I mean, I know most people aren't a massive fan of Chelsea fans, to put it mildly. But when you're playing against them there, they seem to sort of implode quite early on in games. That's exactly what Burnley did when they went down there and got to a 2-2 draw. So I think it's about boxing clever against the side that have been a bit of Frankenstein all season long, and they've got a manager that I think is undoubtedly under some sort of pressure. It reminds me a little bit of what's going on at Man United with Ten Hag. I think they're in a position at a bit of a crossroads now as to what they need to do and what they want to do. Look, Chelsea aren't bothered when they sack a manager and pay them out. So I don't think he's far away from that. So playing a side that's been quite poor, and you've got a manager under pressure, you sort of testing what they can possibly do for themselves to try and, for Pochettino there, he's got looking at that thinking Monday Night Football, Everton come down. The pressure's on that there, because you've got, you've got all sorts of light, your eyes watching this game. So, yeah, I mean, I feel as if from that point of view that you've mentioned there, in terms of who we've come up against, who we've got to try and control and stop, I think from that point of view, we've got a real chance there. And you've got a couple of right backs who essentially keep lightning quick players as quiet as possible, I think we got a decent chance then.
Yeah, there's a really funny moment in the home game when we played these. I think it was Mudryk up against Young, and he had
Yeah,
about 10 yards on him. I think he had to he made it up in the blink of an eye, and it was like, oh god, here we go.
yeah,
But I think Patterson ended up coming on in that game, didn't he, against Mudryk? I think Young might have got injured and had to come off. Um, and then but I don't think Patterson had a particularly great time against him. He looked a threat at Goodison Mudryk. I remember thinking he was going to cause some problems for us, but in the end, obviously, we managed to win. But just wanted to ask you about as well, David. I'm sure you've seen this over the weekend. The story about the Chelsea PSR loophole. A lot of people kicking off about it. So effectively, Chelsea um, sold some hotels to a company they own for 75 million in an attempt to meet the PSR rules. Understandably, it's got a lot of our fans fuming
yeah.
over this, and I suppose it is one of them where you just roll your eyes on a little bit, isn't it? And think it's one of them where obviously we've messed up a lot and we've made some bad decisions, and we are largely in the situation we're in because we deserve to be in it because of how badly run we've been. But like, you see stuff like that, and you just think, come on, this is quite frankly ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I was raising a smile on this, thinking, what could we possibly sell really to knock down our reels for that? Thinking, obviously I'm not going to be in Goodison long. What are the different things we could sell really? Like the church maybe or something like that. just things where we can raise some money for. Do you know what I mean? Like we're doing a raffle or something like that.
The boys' pen, who'd buy the boys' pen? Something
Yeah,
like that.
exactly. Exactly. One of the car parks in the park end or whatever. The 𝗗ጽ𝗍𝗿𝗀𝗀 or whatever it
The
is,
goal.
right?
I reckon someone would spend good money on the Goodison goalposts. I reckon
Yeah.
someone would buy them for a good amount.
Well, I mean, do you know what? Not to go off on a tangent, I'm sort of quite concerned about what happens because obviously everyone's going to want their seat when we leave Goodison. Remember when it happened to Liverpool and basically a few of their fans took a screwdriver with them to
They'll
just
have
to
to do
take.
something, won't they? Like,
We'll have to
I'm sure.
buy them. I know it'll
Yeah,
be an incredible amount of money you have to pay for them. You'll be paying like at least 100, 150 quid, maybe something like that, because the nostalgia obviously that goes with it.
it's one of them like that. Like, I love the idea of having my own seat, but
Yeah,
like, I reckon
yeah,
I'd just get home and be like, what am I gonna do with this now? Like, where'd you put like a plastic seat from the ground in your house? Like, what
yeah.
do you do with it?
I know. I was talking to my missus about this. She's like, "What are you gonna do?" And it was like, "You could use it as a toilet seat. You can use it as just somewhere to sit in and around the dogs. Put it in the garden, something like that. Really." But yeah, I mean, it's a memento that you want to take, isn't it? I think the majority of fans who got a season ticket would be buying that. But yeah, I mean, going back to the point you made there about Chelsea being it's a bit of it's a scandal that they're able to do this. It's nothing to do with the football. Absolutely nothing to do with it. You even go back in the days when they first got their money in from Abramovich. He's the one who sort of brought all that in, brought that sort of hotel stuff and everything in and around. I don't know if a majority of our fans listening to this will have been down to Stamford Bridge, and it's very much like that when you walk around that. It's all been.
Such a weird ground, isn't it? Like,
Yeah,
it's
it
like you go to
is.
like a shopping centre instead of a football stadium. Like, it's certain parts of it.
Yeah, that's an excellent way of putting it, and I think as well when they built those hotels, it's like you get the top few floors of it. Obviously, that it cost a lot of money if you wanted to. You can watch the game from your hotel room, kind of thing. It feels to me there's a real. I feel quite bitter about it, to be honest with you, Matt, because you're essentially going back to things that have been built by a guy who's got a sanction against him to be in the UK, and yet they're able to still take advantage of that when he's not allowed to be able financially to have any sort of um, any sort of issue towards the Premier League anymore and the team that he bought years ago. So yeah, it is hard to take, and let's face it, if we had those effects, we'd be sat here saying, oh, thankfully we've got some sort of a backdrop there we can go and use to take advantage of us not having these sort of sanctions and deductions and things like that. But yeah, I mean, you're going to you're going to a place that have like haven't cared about spending money, and this is where things, not to go too deep in it, But these are the kind of things, these are the kind of clubs that we look at and think, how on earth have they not been involved in the sort of issues we've had? I know we've spent, ridiculous amounts of money on ridiculous amounts of average players at best. And look, I still have to keep in my mind, any time I criticise the amount of deductions we've had, it's simply because Everton began this themselves by the way in which the accounts and whatnot have been ran by the hierarchy of the club, who are no longer there. Look, they'll be behind Chelsea, they'll be behind Manchester City in the sort of things that they've done that are far further worse than what we have. So yeah, you feel that sort of injustice when you're going down to them. And I suppose all the more reason to get behind tonight, really. And you look at sides where we loved that in the past, having me backs against the wall kind of thing. I think that sort of thing's thrown straight into the fact we're playing against a side that haven't had the punishment we have, really, and it just proves the corruption, that word's being so often used by us. That's the sort of thing you're playing against a side tonight who are very much involved in that. So it is quite funny to read about that in sort of gritted teeth sort of way.
Yeah. Just finally, before we finish as well, going to be interesting to see Dele on Monday Night Football tonight. Obviously that's a long show. Of course, he did the interview with Neville, didn't he, which was about 45 minutes, and I'm really interested and really sad. But
Yeah.
this is going to be totally different, isn't it? It's an hour and a half before, it's an hour afterwards. There's a lot of deep chats. I'm sure they'll look at his career and a lot of football stuff as well. But I'm sure they'll talk about Everton. I'm sure they'll talk about his own struggles. And listen, I'm sure that there's people who will roll their eyes and won't be interested in anything that he has to say at all, because he has been very much a big part player for us. But I'm genuinely interested to see what he's got to say about where he's at, about where he thinks the football club's at. And listen, we're talking about players whose futures probably lie away from Everton. I think he is one of them. But just genuinely interested in what he's got to say and how he's doing, really.
I really hope so, Matt. I think, I hope the shackles are off with him, and he doesn't see any issue in terms of the honesty he can have towards Everton, against Everton. It'll probably be the former, given what the club will be telling him to say.
Well, I think in fairness, in the interview he did with Neville, there was some genuine warmth and appreciation from him towards the club and 𝗚cie, wasn't there, for the way in which they just kind of let him take his time with his recovery and get back on with trying to get his life back on track, really.
Yeah, that's spot on. I think the clubs, you can never criticise the club for that sort of thing with players, the mental health sort of side of things, everything in the community. That has never been any sort of issue that we've had. They've been phenomenal with that sort of thing. That's one thing you cannot criticise the club for. And he was incredibly thankful of that when I was watching that interview with Gary Neville. I think we'll hear a lot more of that, but it will be fascinating, I think, just to hear the way in which he came in and the circumstances in which he ended up signing for Everton, and hopefully, when he played a big part in keeping us up as well, against Crystal Palace and all that sort of thing. I hope there's some real insight in that, but I don't think I'm sitting there expecting him to kick off on 𝗔HIV and things like that. I mean, we'd love to sit there like with the popcorn thinking, what's going on here, what's happened at the club. But do you know what? He's somebody I really wish well for. I'm not sure what he does. He goes back to Spurs. Am I right in saying, or have we
Well, no, he's our player, isn't he?
Yeah.
But I think his contract's up, isn't it, in the summer? I'm right in saying
it's a really strange contract, isn't it? With the amount of games he plays, we like Spurs have some sort of clause in it where they get a few million quid from it. It's sad as well because he's a top talented player. I'd hate to see somebody like that whose career just sort of feathers out towards the end, and you're sitting there at the age of, what is he, 28, 29,
yeah.
You're looking at a player, you think, do you know what, he was a top class player for Spurs for quite a long time with England and whatnot, etc. The way in which he fought his way up to the top from MK Dons, the way in which he got into where he is in the game. The injury he had was so unfortunate too, because I thought he played a big part this season. If we'd have had him this season, I thought we'd certainly not be where we are right now. And like I say, there'll be a lot of people listening to this rolling their eyes and thinking, why are we talking about a player here who's just been a waste of money and a waste of time? There's something a lot more deeper to discuss if you want an extended conversation about Dele Alli. in another world, he'd be somebody you'd have to sign quite quickly, and he'd be an essential player for us. Much the same influence that 𝗚cie𝗻𝗄𝗃's had when he signed his new contract. Sadly, that's not going to happen. And it's just a good way we're sort of heading towards the end of what we're talking about in regards to players who you think are probably going to move on, and you've got a huge job to do over the summer. He's one that's on that list who won't be with us any longer.
Yeah, his contract is up in the summer. And we've also passed that threshold now where he could feasibly play every game between now and the end of the season, and we wouldn't have to pay Spurs that 10 million. But
oh, so he's a free agent in a sense.
yeah,
That
he'll be free in the summer. Yeah, so he'll be gone. Yeah,
yeah.
Because yeah, they're not going to renew his contract, are they? Especially given what he's supposed to be on. But yeah, it'll be fascinating to see what he's got to say anyway. Yeah, fingers crossed we can get something tonight. It'd be good to end that 28-year whatever it is winless run that we're on at Stamford Bridge. But cheers to Dave. We'll have post match out later, and then all usual stuff throughout the weeks we build up to that game against Forest. It is Forest on that Sunday, isn't it? Yeah, it is Forest on Sunday.
It's the big 3-game week, isn't it? It's the big 3 games.
Yeah, I keep getting the Forest and Brentford games mixed up, like which one's first, but it is Forest on Sunday. So
and then Liverpool on a Wednesday night as
easy.
Well. So,
we'll have them.
There's the 9 points. There's go on your holidays. Don't care what happens in the rest.
We'll smash them. We'll smash
you go and take 9 points from that and win tonight. There's 12 points. Yeah. Mid-table.
Couldn't even beat Palace at home, Dave. Bloody hell. Come on.
Well, do you know, that's one side we didn't mention Palace going to Liverpool and winning. It was a bit bittersweet because Palace were very much involved.
I've never really thought them. I just put like I was looking at their team yesterday. I was like, Wharton, Eze, 𝗚liche.
You should have been near it. You should not have been near it. I mean, obviously, they've only got a new manager in, 4 or 5 games ago. If they did that a lot earlier, they certainly won't be anywhere near the conversation about, so you haven't got enough points to be staying in the Premier League yet. But, you know, you want to involve as many teams as you possibly can when you're in the situation we are. And then when we were 3 points behind them, I was thinking, do you know what? You can throw these right into it there if you go and get what they have. Ironically, they would be in it if we had those 8 points back. But, you know, I think we've been talking about that every single show. So, you know, we need to shut up about that sort of thing.
But yeah, we will have all that stuff coming later in the week. Cheers for tuning in today. Up the toffees, and we'll catch you again soon.